Well, I seem to have done it again, so I will get rid of that and I'll just do my intro. That's just so everybody knows what the show is that they're watching. I'm going to have a conversation about culture and the fact that we are looking for ways to cancel culture, it appears. Now, this is an interesting conversation in terms of why it's there, what cancel culture is exposed to do, in my view, and my particular view on how we can best manage this process that the right are calling cancel culture. Now, my take is that we all have ideas, we all have views. A lot of people disagree with the views that we might have, but that doesn't mean that we can't have those views. Here in Adelaide, we have Writers' Week this week and next week. And one of the issues that has arisen is about a number of people, or a couple of people in particular, who express extreme right views that has resulted in certain advertisers and supporters of Writers' Week pulling out. Now, the question about that is that if we do have an objection to Writers' Week, should we pull out? And the answer from my perspective is if you've got an objection to a principle, an idea, if there's someone presenting whose ideas are so outlandish that you in principle cannot agree with, or where particularly corporations are involved and they would see that as a blight on their name, then that's probably a reason to withdraw. And a lot of people have chosen to, a lot of organisations in particular, have chosen to withdraw from Writers' Weeks, I think, with those views in mind. Now, I personally do not object to that because I think that if you've got a particular... For example, I wouldn't want to go and hear someone who's an anti-Semitic, for example. I wouldn't want to go and listen to someone who is extremely racist in their views, and I wouldn't want to go and hear someone who is misogynist. However, that doesn't mean that I would say that that person should not be heard. That person has a voice, and in our society, they have the right to be heard. Whether you attend that event is entirely up to you. No one else is making you go. No one else is listening to what they say. You know, the same thing applies with YouTube videos. You can watch stuff, disagree with it, let people know that you disagree, whatever. That's the price people like me pay for putting our views out there. But on the other hand, you could choose simply not to say or not to do things that are going to be offensive to others. And I think a lot of people do write stuff, know that it's going to be offensive, and a lot of people, particularly in social media, Twitter in particular, write stuff that is continually offensive. You know, I think of Sue McGowan and Craig Kelly here in Australia, who write the most revolting stuff and based on no information whatsoever, is using and projecting their views of the world, which is about often their own insecurities and how they think and feel about themselves, I think. But nevertheless, they're expressing those views and creating fear and a whole host of other stuff, which doesn't generate a positive community, but just generates a sense of community which is always going to be doubting itself. I think we as a community need to understand that people have the right. You have the right to disagree with what I say. I have the right to disagree with what you say. I'm hopeful that I don't, and sometimes I do, I admit, but I'm hoping most of the time I'm respectful in the way that I might respond to you. But I would expect you to respond to me also in a respectful way. If you don't, and you're raising the bar, maybe then, you know, a little bit of a verbal battle is likely to take place. But I'm happy to hear your idea and what it is about that idea that you hold that's important to you. So when we're looking at, so there's an article in the Advertiser today, which was cancel culture at Adelaide Festival Writers' Week is not welcome here, says Sam Shahin. Now, Sam's the author of this particular article, and he makes a couple of really good points. And I've just got them noted here. Writers' Week has long established itself as a well-acclaimed melting pot of intellectual and literary views where people contest ideas. It exemplifies diversity, it shapes our views, it makes us better. And I agree wholeheartedly with that notion that We can have people here contesting different ideas, and we need to accept that that is simply their view. It doesn't mean that they're trying to convince us that we should behave in the way that they're advocating. You know, it's like issues around transgendered people and LGBTQI plus people, that because these people are active in schools and in other parts of our community, that they're trying to influence us, or they're trying to influence our children to be like them. They are just other views. You know, the cancel culture in the United States has got way out of hand because, everything is about how these different ideas, even the education of children around their own history, and African American history in particular, Indian and Native American history, how that has impacted the way their society is constructed and the issues that sit in that society to this very day. So they're issues that are important, yet there's a certain part of our community that doesn't want us to hear those views, that feels afraid that if those views are expressed, that it will create an influence over which they will no longer have any control. So we need to minimise that. It kind of reminds me a little bit about the need that the Roman Catholic Church had to ensure that the people that were educated were the priests, and those people that were uneducated and taught to by the priests were those the servants, the minions, the people working on farms, those people that didn't know how to read and write, because it was to their advantage not to have them educated. Because once they become educated, they start to question whatever else is happening in their world that they don't agree with. And this is very much the same that's happening around this cancel culture thing, I think, is there's a whole host of people that don't want these ideas expressed on both sides of politics. So they're where they don't want these ideas expressed, because if those ideas are expressed, there'll be a whole host of other people that will have views that are different to their own. And I think this particularly takes place in terms of the right, where they're actually focusing on certain areas that they believe should be cancelled because that conflicts with their own values and beliefs. But on the left, we should be open to hear other views. Those views on the right, for example, we should be able to be open to whatever those views are and have conversations about whether or not they have validity. So it goes on to say in this article, society grows wiser when we can listen and contest ideas without the impulse to denounce what we do not agree with. I think it's well within our rights to say, I disagree. I'm never probably going to agree with you about that, but I'm happy to listen to what you have to say. The problem that we have, I think, is that a lot of the views which are being expressed are expressed without any intellectual capacity whatsoever. They're tropes, they're regurgitated stuff that you hear from people over and over again without any real understanding as to what it is that they're talking about, the impact that those ideas have on others who don't believe them. And it's a bit like, I guess, Christian beliefs, particularly right-wing Christian beliefs, and how, everybody else is going to go to hell if you don't believe them, and they are here to save us. It's that same notion that somehow these group of people have got a better grasp of the world and the universe than what you do, and that those views are so important to them that they have to bombard you with them endlessly so that you will grasp them and so that they could somehow be your saviour. Those days are gone. We have so much social media now that many ideas can be expressed. And I just want to read one further portion of this. Over this last decade, we have dangerously shifted in the way we disagree with the views of others. We used to say, we disagree with you, so you are wrong. Today's dangerous narrative seems to have shifted to, we disagree with you, so therefore you must be a bad person. And I think, to me, that's really, in essence, what this discussion really is all about. I don't think that, look, in the United States, people like Marjorie Taylor Greene aren't necessarily bad people. I think they're misguided. I think that a lot of things that they say are unhelpful, but I don't think they're necessarily bad people. I will extend. I won't extend that to Donald Trump though, because I think he's just innately a psychopath and a narcissist, and he himself. And I think that makes a bad person. Hopefully, he could be better than that, but he chooses not to be on every blinking occasion. Here we have people like Craig Kelly who are focusing on particular ideas around anti-vaxxers and a whole host of other crazy shit that doesn't make any sense, and he pulls out information and crap which isn't necessarily founded in truth either. And then unfortunately, we have this battle between medias. So we have three sets of media. We have the left-wing media and the cable media on the left, and then on the right, we don't have all that much cable media here in South Australia on the left. Cable media mainly is Sky News here, which is right-wing, like Fox, because it's owned by Murdoch. And then we have a centrist group of media. So we've got, people like, who are also run by Murdoch, the Advertiser, Sydney Morning Herald, I don't know whether it's Murdoch, but we have all these other newspapers that are definitely right-wing leaning. And then we have, in the middle, I believe we have social media, which sorts out a lot of the ideas, which gives us a lot of the input that we want from media. We subscribe to certain people, we get fed certain information. The algorithms tell us what we should be watching because this is the sort of stuff that we've been clicking on. So, and there's that. And so we've got an influx, I think, of media which we can choose from. And we could just watch Sky News or Fox if that's what we do. I watch a lot of that because I like to know what they're thinking. And then we could watch the left-wing media, which supports this bubble in which we may choose to live. We can look through the bubble of the way other people are viewing the world, and I think that's a good thing that we do. But we need to be able to find a way, I think, to have really helpful conversations about what all of this means, for us to share these ideas, to be able to articulate what we think, to ask people why they believe what they believe and what brought them to that conclusion in the first place, what motivated them to think the way that they do. And then some of those people may have substantive arguments. I'm not discounting the fact that they're just buried in idiocy and that they may not know what it is that they mean. I'm asking them. And, sometimes just by querying and asking those questions can change minds because when we do that, we evaluate what those things mean and where they come from and whether or not they are intrinsically important to us. So I think that this cultural war irritates me because it's unnecessary. I don't think that we should necessarily prevent people from saying what it is that they need to say. We all need to be able to say openly the things that are concerning us. So if you'd like the feedback, please put a comment below. On the last live feed, I did have some comments, which is really helpful. Put a comment down below. I will respond. And if I disagree with you, I'll certainly let you know. And I'd certainly like to think that you could subscribe to my channel. That's really, really helpful. And let me know what you think. And I'll get back to you. Thanks, everybody, for being with me. Take care, look after yourselves, and more importantly, be safe.